Welcome back, Washed Up Walk-Ons fans, episode 268 of the podcast. This is going to be another split episode, me and Kluver, then Kevin and Kluver. Again, Kevin and I's schedules just didn't match up today. He's busy in the morning. I'm busy in the afternoon. It is what it is. We're still going to get you guys out the episode that you guys want to listen to. This is the pre-Fighting Illinois podcast. And to be honest, man, the fact that Illinois is still a Division I Big Ten team is honestly not good for the Big Ten. They've been an absolute disgrace to the conference, to their state. Well, not really their state, because the entire state of Illinois is just an absolute burning pile of shit. So their program really represents that pretty well over the course of its tenure in the Big Ten. There's effectively no team that it would be more embarrassing to lose to than Illinois. And the fact that we're going to have to figure out what to talk about in a pregame podcast, it's going to be tough, but we're going to fill this hopefully with a whole lot of Illinois state and university slander and give you guys the content you're looking for. Kluver?
It is tough. I think you hit it on the head there with us, actually. It's disrespectful of the Illini to be so ass that people who have to, get to do shows then have to include them in the party. They're like the kid who, they're like the kid who's real weird at recess and you still have to bring him a cupcake when you bring treats for your birthday. That's kind of bullshit. It's a little bit bullshit. It's a participation award. They're sort of a participation school. I throw them right in there with India, poor Indiana.
Dude, Indiana, man, what happened?
Well, I think the Hawks actually killed them in game 1.
We broke them.
Yeah. I was going to say Maryland and Rutgers. But even I don't even like calling them Butgers because then that makes me think of Ike, and that's disrespectful to Gersh.
Disrespectful to Ike.
Yeah. So Rutgers, Maryland, and Illinois. And let's be honest, Nebraska. Because it's
true.
And it's unfortunate, but Drake, we are Nebraska fans this week because they have the Wisconsin Badgers. Nebraska will travel to number 15. As of last night, the CFP rankings came out. We'll go over those in a second. Number 15, Wisconsin Badgers. And we need Wisconsin to lose one of the next 2 games if the tickets sitting in my Ticketmaster app are to still be good for the Hawks. So what are the odds? We'll get to Illinois in a second. I've got their stats pulled up. They're actually okay on a couple
Is this game in Champaign?
This was in Kinnick. This will be in Iowa City.
Well, at least the boys don't have to go and travel to Champaign, because I would say that it would be more than likely that in that stadium, in the cold, we just wouldn't play well.
You think it would be similar? You think it would be similar to when
you just don't want to be there. I don't care what Kevin says. When it's cold in Champaign, Illinois, and there's nobody in the stands,
it's trash.
You don't want to be there.
I remember our junior year when it took us forever to get going.
An entire half. Brian Ferentz went ballistic at halftime.
And Riley McCarron saved our ass with a punt return for a touchdown. And I think we might have only scored 3 touchdowns. I know Big Boy ran one in late, I believe. But, dude, it was the second windiest game we ever played in. It was so cold. Their locker room, I don't know if you remember, but their locker room.
I remember.
It was like.
It felt like we were from the 19th. It felt like we were in the movie Remember the Titans.
There was like wood paneling on the side of it was old. I mean, it just the vibe, and it's hard to quantify that. People ask about, well, how does a locker room affect you? What are the little things that make a difference in a game? How do you?
They're so long. You spend so long in a locker room. Like, I honestly think that it would be advantageous if the Hawks are going to a place where there isn't a good locker room, where we get there and it almost feels like we're all rushed to get
Yeah.
everything done. Like we don't have enough time. Because I think that would actually maybe get us in that fight or flight mode. But when we have to go and sit for 45 minutes in those really shitty locker rooms, man, it sucks. You just truly don't want to be there.
People,
Like we're supposed to be the prize fighters, we're supposed to be the show
right.
ponies.
Yeah.
And they put us in this disgusting shit-filled barn, and we're just like, okay, well, put us back on the trailer and let's go back home. Like,
that's a great analogy. I think it's hard to quantify those little things and why they affect the game, and why does the environment,
they just affect your mood, man. Like as a human being, just forget being a competitor and everything. Like between the white lines, things are different, and you can always get yourself cranked up between the white lines. Like as soon as you get hit one time, you're cranked up.
Yeah.
But it's just like from a human being standpoint, like when you're a human who takes care of yourself and is cleanly and hygienic, and like you don't live on a pile of dirt in a shack with shit around you, and then you go to Northwestern's locker room, it legitimately it's like you're ranking down several notches on the totem pole of like humanity.
How did they get away? How did Northwestern, Illinois is at least
Purdue,
like Northwestern, Purdue. I don't know if you remember Maryland's. You may not have gone in 2014.
I didn't go to Maryland.
Okay.
Well, I did not go to Maryland.
Well, it was actually smaller. It was like,
how does Wisconsin get away with the size of their away locker room?
That's what I'm saying, is how do these places not, is there some OSHA organization that can come in and like mandate a baseline away locker room? I've been in the pink locker room. It's fucking awesome, dude.
It's beautiful. The only thing that's weird about it is it's pink.
It's all like a dull clay pink, but space-wise, functionality, it's great.
Yep.
And Minnesota's away locker room is great, but there aren't really many that are super accommodating. And I get it. Like there is this, and it's reason why Hayden went with the pink. By the way, what an awesome move by Hayden to just go like, let's just do this pink locker room. But yeah, I don't understand. And I think the way that I can describe why that affects the mood and how amped you are to play as much is because the margins in a football game are so small to begin with. Imagine you go into a game and realistically there, you could find like, oh, the RPI percentage to win this game on ESPN is 76% for Iowa. It's never that close, or it's never that far away. It's always within 55 to 45%. And there's so many factors and variables that go into a team winning or losing a football game. And if it's already just a couple percentage points difference between the two teams, and then you stick a team in a locker room where they have to literally climb over each other, it smells horrible. You can't even gather a group of people, a position group, without having to like wrap around the urinal. Everybody's just a little bit more irritated. They're a little bit more less comfortable. Call it a
like, dude, if you took the showers from the Purdue locker room and put them in a summer camp in the middle of the woods, the kids would still be like, I think we could do better.
I think, yeah, your mic, I think, reverbed to the computer mic. So refresh or whatever you got to do. But it's just like, all right. Yeah, it's just like once you do that 1/10 percentage point for every single guy on the team, that adds up to a couple percent, right? That's a couple percent. And now you've swayed the margin even closer. And it's just, Illinois is one of those teams. And let's be honest, there's not a lot to fight for this week. It's Illinois is, let me pull them up here. I've got the Big Ten slate up. I also have some of the Big Ten stats. Illinois actually won their first game against Nebraska to start the season in week 0. They then went on a 4-game slide. They beat Charlotte by 10. They lost to Wisconsin. Then they won that dumbass overtime game against Penn State. They lost to Rutgers, and then they beat Minnesota last week. So they're a little bit of an up and down team as well. They're currently sitting at 4 wins. And to be bowl eligible, they would have to knock us off and then beat Northwestern. There's not a lot to like about them. I don't know if you saw this, Drake, but old Brett Bielema won't be in attendance because he's got the COVID. And
he ain't coming home for a reunion?
No, he's I believe that he's actually going to be somewhere in the press box. He decided that he wanted to cheer on the Hawks for this game with the tattoo on his leg. And also, he's a big fan of food, as you can tell from his appearance. So he was probably
he's fat like a bastard.
Yeah,
also, does my mic sound better?
It sounds better now, yeah. He looks like he's going to be he's seeking out that press box snacks. But yeah, man, they are the 13th best offensive team in the league. They score 17.2 points per game. And by the way, looking at this list, Ohio State scores 46 a game. That's a lot of points. The next best is Michigan at 34. Ooh.
It feels bad when you're a team that's trying to get 49 yards a game.
Yeah.
Ohio State scoring 49 points.
Yeah, they're putting up as many points as we get offensive yardage. Defensively, so Illinois is not good offensively. They're just not good. Middle of the pack defensively, they allow 21.6 points per game. It's not Wisconsin or Iowa at 14, 15, 16, but it also isn't Indiana, who's allowing 32 per game. So, they run the ball. They almost exclusively run the ball. They can't throw. They have Artur
Sitkowski. He broke his arm earlier this year.
Yeah, and then they have a guy named Peters as well. They've split almost equal reps, almost equal yards. They both throw for about 52 or 3%. Their running back, their top receiver is 38 receptions for 376 yards. That's okay. After that, it goes to their tight end. It gets pretty weak. And the bulk of their offense is Chase Brown, who has 143 rushing attempts. I guess they have McCray as well. And between those two, they have about 1,400 rushing yards. Like Kevin said, and we'll talk to Kevin in a little bit, they're going to stack 6, 7 offensive linemen sometimes. And this would be a great game for you to play in, Drake. This would be a game for you. There'd be a lot of fullback action.
Every year that we played Illinois, it always was, man. And you know what? The Illinois linebackers, they play super pussy, dude. Like, first of all, if you're an Illinois linebacker, you should be ashamed of the way that you played football.
Yeah.
Because they dive head first on the ground to take on fullbacks.
They're soft.
And so we were taught that we had to go meet them down there. And so it was just 2 guys diving head first for each other because that's the way that they decided to do things over there.
Yeah. Not a whole lot more to say. We basically have to stop. We'll talk more football stuff with Kevin. I'll save that because I know that Drake and we kind of flow better on the more general current event stuff. But
I mean, what do you want me to say? If we can't run the ball on Illinois, then we can't run the ball on anybody. Like,
yeah.
What else do you want from me?
I look at them as a slightly worse Minnesota, even though they just beat Minnesota the week before. There's no reason we shouldn't win this game. There's just no reason we shouldn't win this game.
Literally zero. If we don't beat Illinois, then I mean, come on. We'll shut down the podcast until the off season.
Yeah, the Hawks haven't lost going back to before our time to Illinois. So, and it's Bert's first year. I know his name is Brett, but I like calling him Bert. And he won't even be there. It's in Kinnick. We still have a shot at the Big Ten West title, so there's still fire to use and fuel us to win this ball game, and they're just not a great team. So last night the CFP rankings were released. Nothing really changed. Georgia, Alabama, Oregon, Ohio State, Cincinnati sitting at 5. In the Big Ten this week, there is a big game. The old Ohio State Buckeyes will play in the shoe versus Michigan State, who is ranked 7th. That's probably the most exciting game this weekend. If you're an Iowa fan, like I said, Nebraska with half a staff is going to take on Wisconsin. What are the odds that they actually put up any kind of fight against Wisconsin?
I don't know what the line is, but I would say Wisconsin probably covers that.
God, I would just love for something magical to happen. I'm going to look up the line right now. The old
Imagine how big of a joke the rest of the season would be if they just fired your whole coaching staff, dude.
I'm confused. Who calls the plays?
We're going to find out.
I haven't really kept up. The over under on that game is 42, and it's Wisconsin -9.
Oh my God. Hammer Wisconsin. That's one of my picks.
You think so?
Oh, Christ, yes. They fired their whole staff.
I know.
There's
and
nobody on the offensive staff. Who gave the kids the game plan?
I know, dude. I just don't know how
Who taught the quarterbacks how they're going to beat Wisconsin's defense? Wisconsin -9 is a lock. Take it. Hammer it. Lock it in.
You're right. They're fucked.
Dude, they gave Ohio State 21 points the other day against the team that had offensive coaches.
I know. I want them. I want Wisconsin to lose, and we're probably relying on old Tanner Morgan in the last week to get it done. And I believe they play for Paul Bunyan's axe. I think that's the trophy between Wisconsin and Minnesota. So like Wisconsin,
Paul Bunyan's dildo. Fuck both those teams.
Yeah, but we'll be Gopher fans next week, especially because we beat them. So, oh man, I don't think it's going to happen at this point. It is wild to me that this team blew the West title where we were at and where Wisconsin was at. We went 2 completely different directions for 3 weeks, and that hurt. Man.
But we still don't have an offense that would allow us to not get blown out by a team that's got good offense and defense.
You're right. I know you're right.
Like, imagine if we were just giving Ohio State the ball between the 40s every single possession.
Oof, that'd be bad. Yeah, there is this small portion of me that thinks, do we actually want Wisconsin to slip up and then we win these last 2 games and we find ourselves against Ohio State? Of course you want it for the optics, but then once that game starts, the entire 60 minutes, you're just hoping, please don't get blown out. And our defense I would see it as like a kind of how the Purdue game went. We would get controlled because we couldn't move the ball, but our defense would keep us in it and at least limit them to 30. I don't know. It would be tough. I don't know. It'd be great for them because then I wouldn't have to resell the tickets, but it is what it is. Other games in the Big Ten this week that aren't important are really none of them. Michigan plays Maryland, so they'll win.
Michigan plays Ohio State next weekend.
And then they play Ohio State. So that's, Ohio State's got these 2 Michigan teams, and they have to win both of them. Do you think they'll win both of those games? Like, that's a tough.
I would say that it's better than 50% that they win them both. I would say each of them, they're probably like 75% favored.
Yeah.
Put it together, they're somewhere around half.
And then it just is same old, Let me see if I got anything over here on the pod plan. Oh, well, Iowa State lost to Texas Tech this past weekend. So
And Baylor, the Fighting Dylan Doyles beat Boomer.
they finally took out Oklahoma, which makes me so happy because Oklahoma
Feel good.
Yeah. The Iowa State loss is interesting. I saw a Campbell. This isn't a Cyclone podcast by any means, but they're now 6-4 on the year. And
Yikes.
and this was supposed
Didn't
to
they
be
start out like number 8?
Yeah, they were ranked as high as like 6 or 7, I think.
I mean, we can't say shit. We were ranked number 2, so
Yeah, you're right. But at least now, 10 games into the season, we're 8-2. They're 6-4.
And we still have the Cyhawk, so
we do still have the Cyhawk. They were supposed to potentially be the best team in Iowa State history this year, and that clearly isn't going to happen. They've lost to Iowa. They've lost to Texas Tech. They lost to Baylor and somebody else. I can't remember. And then Campbell in a press conference, it kind of felt like he was backtracking. He said, our goal was never to win the Big 12. Our goal is to be the best version of this team that they could be. Like some bullshit answer.
What do you mean their goal is not to win the Big 12? Our goal is to win the Big 10 every single year.
I thought it was interesting because we literally put on paper that our goal is to, of course, win each week, win the trophy games, win the West, and then compete for a Big 10 championship. We put those down and say and actively put those out into the world as
towards those. They were our checklist. Like that was the season checklist.
And Campbell was like almost adamantly like, I've never said in the public that our goal is to be the Big 12 champions. And I just don't know if that's the look that you want, but hey, it's his team.
That's very similar to the look that you would expect from the losers up there in Lames, Iowa.
Yeah. Sounds very Scott Frostish,
It just sounds like a chicken shit, Mickey Mouse bullshit operation. It's what we as the big brother expect out of those guys. It's kind of just what we joke about. Yeah, it's just what we joke about. Like they just aren't as dedicated to winning as we are. Like they just aren't quite willing to go as far as a program as we are. And like that goes as far from goal setting. Like if you don't shoot for the stars, you're going to come up short every single time. If like you don't make it an expectation that you win every game on your schedule because each week you're the more physically prepared dominant team, then like what are we doing? You're not a true competitor?
Yeah. Do you think that that's actually what he told his team? Like he romanticized the idea of being.
He told the media. It doesn't matter if he told his team that. He said it to the media, and now all his players are like, "Oh, that's how the coach feels." Like even if he was giving them a front before that in the meetings, once he says that to the media, they're like, "Oh, so everything that he was saying to us,
you're right,
was bullshit."
Holy shit! Wow, that's crazy. That sounds crazy, you and I, because we sat under Coach Ferentz, who stood up at the front and says, "We want to win the West. We want to win the Big 10 championship."
And we expect to win like you don't go up there and say at the beginning of the season, we expect to be 12-0. Right. Because that we're a one game at a time mentality squad, very much so, the 24-hour rule, et cetera, et cetera. But every single week, the head coach stands up at the front of the room and tells us very explicitly that the expectation is for us to win this week, to be the most prepared team mentally and physically, and at the end of each week to be 1-0. And like that is very, very blatantly the expectation.
Yeah, the way that Campbell put that out there, excuse me, is it literally makes it black and white. Either he actually told his team in the offseason all the way through that our goal is to be this vague romantic idea of the best that we can be, right? The best Iowa State team that can be in 2021, which as a player, you're like, okay, that's a little broad.
So what do you think of us?
Right. That's a little broad. Like, can we narrow down on some goals here? Or they actually do like most other teams say, hey, we want to win a conference championship. We want to win each game. And then he goes out and says something completely different in front of the media, which makes you look like an asshole to your team. Nobody else knows, but to your team. And so they're in either one of those two positions. And it makes me think that, he's, since he took Iowa State from the shitter to, at least the
to relevance, realistic relevance.
Yeah. He had him in the top 10 and a good finish last year, beat Oregon in the PlayStation Bowl or something like that. I wonder if them in this year that was supposed to be, because he's been so hardcore Iowa State, right? I'm staying at Iowa State. I'm not going anywhere. USC job, LSU job. There's a few jobs that are open where he's always kind of, hey.
Can you imagine not taking that LSU job?
Or the USC, dude, California.
But USC's been tougher. USC, like, you got to pay California taxes. You got to live in LA with all that bullshit.
Yeah.
You got to deal with being the coach of USC, which is equally, if not worse, than the coach of LSU. Yeah. Like, LSU is diehard Louisiana State University football.
Yeah.
Like, you go down there in the deep South in Louisiana, that's all they care about.
We play football down here.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Right. They're not even okay with a Coach O having won a national championship a few years ago and being through a little bit of a lull. Like, the Tigers, they don't go through a lull.
You're right.
So taking that LSU job would be unbelievable. You get the nation's top recruits. Everybody wants to go play for LSU.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be dope.
I wonder if his allegiance to Ames and the Cyclones has wavered a little bit with their 6-4, right? Because he's human too, right? Like, he's just another guy. And yep. I would love to actually hear the truth. I think eventually it'll come out if he decides to leave or not, but interesting stuff. That's all I got, man. I'm going to leave it there.
I got a couple picks for you.
Yeah, we've got awards winners. We'll roll the music in the second clip with Kevin, but give me the picks. Are you actually taking the Nebraska as one of your three?
Yeah, I want Wisconsin -9.
Oh, right. Wisconsin against Nebraska. Okay, Wisconsin -9. Cool. Give me your other two.
Packers -2.5 at the Vikings.
Yes, we talked about that on old DHT yesterday. If you're a part of the Patreon army, we've got a few of those new members as well. You might, if you're a listener right now, and I haven't mentioned the merch yet, go buy the merch. It's live. And if you're going to buy merch, you save 10, 15, or 20%, depending on what tier you sign up at on the Patreon. So you might as well go sign up for the Patreon. The discount will then pay for itself for a month or two of the Patreon. Then you get the extra perks. Come hang out with us on Dickhead Tuesday and
on Discord.
And on the Discord. Anyway, Packers -2.5. They're playing the Vikes at the Vikes, but the Vikings are they've just lost a lot of close games. They're kind of like Nebraska. They just don't know how to win.
Very much in Vikings fashion in every year except for the Stephon Diggs Minnesota Miracle.
Yeah. And then
and then my other pick is going to be the Niners -6 at Jacksonville. The Niners seem to be kind of figuring something out. Mm-hmm. Their defense is playing really strong, like I talked about. Yep. And Jacksonville is Jacksonville. And if the Niners are going to make any kind of playoff push in the NFC and going to try and start beating these teams that beat them earlier in the season, they're going to start needing to get some momentum. So Give me the Niners -6. Bang, bang.
I like that. And George is on a little bit of a tear recently. And when he plays
George's on a tear.
Yeah, when he plays well, they play well. And so.
And when Deebo Samuel plays well, they play well. And both those guys are on a tear right now. And because of that, Jimmy G's got some confidence because he's got two guys that he can rely on every single play.
Yeah. And he's the kind of quarterback where he kind of plays to the level of the guys around him. And so he's very good when he's got guys that are playing great. So I imagine you're going to get your neck torn off here in a little bit.
Yeah, dude, my neck be hurting too, man. It's in bad shape.
That's tough. Cool. So little jits for Drake. I am going to go eat some lunch and then we'll be back in a second with Kevin Ward. That dumb guy who actually has a job and requires us to record it, asshole times. Anyway, we'll be back in a second. My disdain for Kevin.
It's the life of a podcast host with two screwballs.
There's a lot to deal with. The split episodes are always fun. Thank you guys for joining us here. Drake, thanks for making time in the morning, and we'll talk on Monday next with you. You guys will hear Kevin Ward when we come back from the break.